you know, because there was a reason for it, you know. And like I said, if you read the story, you'll find out the reason. All right, so he made himself strange to his brothers. All right, now the next frame is Moses, stranger in a strange land. It says, this is Exodus 2:22. And she bare him a son, and he called his name Gershom. Now the word Gershom also means a stranger. For he said, I have been a stranger in a strange land. Now here, as you read through here, this is Garasham, which is stranger. This is the word Gershom. Then you have the word Gar here. Now the word Gar is stranger, as we read showed you before. Then it says here, Ba'arataza na Karya. That's a stranger in the land, or in the earth, or in the in the land of a stranger, or in a strange land. All right. So that's letting you know that whenever you dwelt outside of your homeland, those lands were considered to be strange, you know. And this is the word that was used, Nakar or Nakarya. All right. So that's why Moses said that he was a stranger in a strange land, because he wasn't in his homeland at that time. All right. Now let's move on to the next one. And then right here it says, stranger not eat the Passover. Now this scripture here in Exodus the 12th chapter is a key scripture to tie together everything concerning who the strangers are that are Israelite foreigners, which if at first you don't understand, after you go through the scriptures and you learn, that the scriptures are only dealing for Israel, and only for Israel, then eventually you'll understand that that the strangers are talking about Israelite foreigners. And in this scripture it gives you the difference within the law of keeping the Passover between the actual stranger that is an Israelite foreigner and the actual stranger that is of another nation. Now it's not going to say it like that. It doesn't say, well, this particular stranger is an Israelite and this particular stranger is not. But we're going to show you through this through these verses and going into the Hebrew that there was two different distinct type of strangers. All right. Now this is Exodus 12:43. And the Lord said unto Moses and Aaron, this is the ordinance of the Passover. There shall no stranger eat thereof. What does it say here? Bun Nakar. Bun Nakar, son of stranger. Now that's the word we were dealing with before, Nakar, which is an actual heathen. So the Lord made it clear that no stranger, the people of other nations, can eat the Passover. There's no getting around that. Nobody else except for Israel can eat the Passover. The other nations cannot eat the Passover. But now here comes the misunderstanding of unlearned people, and going back to the well, actually let's just read it. Let's read it. Just the next one. Stranger eat the Passover. This is a few verses down, Exodus 12:48. It says, and when a stranger shall sojourn with thee, and will keep the Passover to the Lord, let all his males be circumcised, and then let him come near and keep it, and he shall be as one that is born in the land. For no uncircumcised person shall eat thereof. So now, is the Most High contradicting himself? No. The problem is that people don't understand. They don't understand the mystery of the Israelite foreigners. The Gentiles that were to be delivered were Israelite foreigners, and they don't understand. And if you don't understand that, then you don't understand the truth, period. So it says that a stranger, when he sojourns with you, can keep the Passover. But we read over here in the previous frame that no stranger shall eat of the Passover. And this stranger here is Bun Nakar, right? Son of a heathen or stranger. This here is Wa Gawar Gar. And stranger, right? He stranger, Gar sojourn. So the stranger sojourns. So this particular stranger is speaking about an Israelite. So when there's an Israelite that comes, which shows you that you had Israelites that were out there even back then, that were out there that mingled among the nations, and then they they stopped circumcising themselves. That's why it says that all his males have to be circumcised before he can eat. That's one example. And then in the same verse, the very next verse, it says this is a law on a stranger, right? Dealing with the Passover. One law shall be to him that is homeborn, and unto the stranger that sojourneth among you. So meaning that you and this Israelite foreigner, you both keep one law among you. Now this other law of the stranger not eating, that's talking about the other nations. That's why it says that one law shall be to him that is homeborn, and unto the stranger that sojourneth among you. Why? Because you had Israelite foreigners that was living among Israel even at that time. And then when you read through the Hebrew here, you have the word walagar, hagar. Walagar, and to stranger, hagar, the sojourner. See, that sojourneth. So this law pertained to the Israelite foreigners. And eventually the Lord wrote that in there because eventually basically all of us was going to fall off from this thing at one time. That's why the Lord said that Israel is not a people unto him anymore. And that happened. Eventually we all lost our heritage, but now we were all strangers. But now we're coming back to know the Lord is waking us back up to knowing that we're Israelites. That's why some of these laws were also written. All right, so that's the difference between an actual stranger and an Israelite foreigner. All right, but to some of these guys you can't tell them because they're just blind. Some of them are blinded, some of them are just demons, and other ones of them got paid by the international bankers through the Jesuits or whoever they got their money from to really throw this word off. That's why now you got all these so-called Jews and these other so-called white people making videos about that we're going off and that Deuteronomy 28 don't mean that, and the Jews really weren't black and Adam was this, and they're making all type of videos to stir up confusion. But that's all right. It's good because the Most High, this thing is precious. So the Most High only wants his elect. He only wants a chosen few. So these stumbling blocks that are set up by the Most High for those that the Lord doesn't want. Because you had a whole bunch of guys that came in at one time, and then they heard certain doctrines of other guys, and you'll see him battling with the guy, and then all of a sudden he's with the dude now because the guy convinced him of that madness. Why? Because that was a stumbling block that the Lord laid before him. So that happened with a few guys already, and it's going to happen more. The closer we get to this thing, the more intense it's going to get. And once things get intense, Jake likes comfort. They don't like to deal in the trenches. Jake likes to be comfortable. They don't want to be in the trenches, So it's going to come down to who are the Most High's elect and who are not. All right? So that was the law on the stranger in Exodus the 12th chapter. So now you're starting to see the difference between the real strangers and the Israelite foreigners. All right, now the next one, and these are, like I said, they're just random scriptures dealing with strangers. Now this is the gods of the strangers. It said, the Lord said unto Moses, behold, thou shalt sleep with thy fathers, and this people will rise up and go a whoring after the gods of the strangers of the land whither they go to be among them, and will forsake me and break my covenant which I had made with them. And what does it say here for son of strangers, or of the strangers? Nakar. No, Alahaya Nakar. You see, which is the actual strangers, or the gods of the other nations. Levite not go into city of a stranger. All right, now you can read this story in the book of Judges, the 19th chapter. This is dealing with the Levite. So you can, you brothers can read it. I just want to get the point. This is Judges 19 and 12. And his master said unto him, we will not turn aside hither into a city of a stranger that is not of the children of Israel. We will pass over to Gibeah. So basically he didn't want to sojourn there. He went to another town where Israel lived. And Gibeah, if I'm not mistaken, that's the town, that was a city that was inhabited by Benjamin. All right, and this was the whole thing with the man's concubine took place. But this is to show you that the Levite said, look, man, I'm not going into the city of that stranger, of these strangers. So now what is the word stranger or city of the stranger? Ayar Nakarya. Ayar is city, Nakarya is stranger. See, so that was a bad name, a bad something that you didn't want to be associated with.